Welcome back, ladies and gents. My name is Gashi Gaming, back with another video. So today we're going to be talking about Acheron and our lovely, very lovely Firefly. Now obviously today's video is going to mostly focus on who is the better DPS, so obviously hit that like, share and subscribe. And with that said, let's hop into the video. So today we're going to be talking about basically why I think Firefly unfortunately is better than Acheron. And I say this with a heavy heart because on this account specifically, I have been able to get an E4 Acheron free to play and an E2 Firefly free to play specifically. Now for Firefly, I only have her light cone left, so I'm really pushing, like really pushing to obviously farm this account with whatever stellar jades I can get, because I only have about, like, let's say 2 more 10 pulls, which I feel I can squeeze out if I just do, you know, the weeklies, then whatever simulated universe or MOC comes up in the next 1 week. But I think I only have about 2 more pulls left, which I think I can kind of just squeeze in to be able to get her specific light cone. Now this is coming from a perspective where, again, I do have the eidolons of the character, both of them. The only character whose light cone I have is Acheron. But irrespective of that fact, it is very bad, I feel, that Firefly is basically hitting way harder than Acheron. Now both of them have their different aspects in which they deal damage. I'm not saying that one obviously is better. Well, in my case specifically, I think Firefly is better than Acheron, but to some aspect. And the reason I say that is because if you look at Firefly, if she does not break an enemy, her damage is very minimal, and I mean very minimal. She's probably been hitting, and I mean 2,000, 9,000 worth of damage. But the moment that break damage hits, as long as you have a Ruin May and you have a Trailblazer, 100% she's hitting close to 500,000 with a free-to-play light cone, by the way. Right, the eidolons obviously add an extra bit of damage, obviously being that you don't use the skill points and you can go a second time. But the fact that you're hitting about like 400,000, you're hitting it twice, she's basically hitting about 800,000 in 1 turn, right? And not even on top of the fact that she is basically going more than 3 times in 1 turn, because mind you, when she goes into her ultimate form, she gets a buff of about an extra 60 speed, 75 speed, if I'm not wrong. So the moment she goes into her ultimate, she gets an extra 60 speed. On top of the fact that if you have a Ruin May, her general passive, I don't know which one it was specifically, let me just get it. Her general passive talent is it increases the speed by 10% for the team excluding this character. When allies break an enemy, pretty much the same, right? So you basically get, she basically gets her own speed buff of 60 plus an extra 10% speed buff from Ruin May. So by the time you're actually facing or fighting specifically with Firefly, you have hit speeds of about 210 to 215 worth of speed, which is actually unprecedented and unseen in any DPS that we've gotten so far amongst in Star Rail specifically. Now obviously you have your supports that can be obviously 163, maybe some Bronya 130 or 160 depending on how you're building her, as long as she's slower than the DPS, right? But in realistic form, if there's no character right now, no DPS character that you can build to have 160 speed without sacrificing some form of damage. Now the problem I have with Acheron, well, I don't have a problem with Acheron. She hits hard 100%, but she does not hit as fast and as hard as Firefly if they're put in the right team. And that's where another issue comes in specifically. As much as I say that Firefly I feel is better than Acheron, both of them do need their specific teams to perform optimally. Now in my case, because I have an E2 Acheron, I'm able to obviously put in a Bronya for her to be able to deal more damage in terms of just general skill and ultimate. But in the event that I put another Nihility character such as Gwenaifen, obviously you're basically getting 1-2 stacks plus an extra about 2 to 3 4 stacks from her skill, and that's one of the major things that I find beneficial about Acheron. But the fact that you can basically now swap putting a Bronya to action advancer to the top, it just doesn't, it still puts in the context that if Acheron was another character in general, like let's say Yang Chin, you wouldn't need to basically have a specific team for him. You can put in anyone and they would work, whereas Acheron is very specific to the fact that she needs a Nihility character to build up her stacks. Now when we look at someone like Firefly, on the other hand, Firefly I feel cannot work optimally without a Trailblazer and without a Ruin Mei. The reason why I say that is because the Trailblazer does give her more damage in terms of extra super break damage, and Ruin Mei gives her that extra, again, break effect as well as break efficiency. If you get Firefly to an E6, even better, because you see her E6 basically increases the weakness break efficiency by 50%. So not only will you be having that extra break efficiency from Ruin Mei, you will also be having an extra 50% increase in break efficiency from Firefly. So for basically the whales who are going all the way to E6, you don't even need another DPS character. Why? Because she's going like 3 times in one go. 3 times is not a joke. Being able to go 3 times within one turn and hit a ton load of damage in one go is a lot of, obviously, opportunity, specifically for a free-to-play player. Now with Acheron, I feel it has to be her team that are built with speed rather than her, because if she's built with attack, the only way for you to deal that very big amount of damage is just for you to be able to, get your ultimate as fast as possible. And you can get your ultimate as fast as possible if you have 2 Nihility, or you have 1 Nihility and you're basically using now, let's say like a Bronya to bring her back up, and then use her Eidolons to basically get that 1 extra stack that you get from using her skill. Now her E4 obviously just gives like an 8% ultimate damage vulnerability. Not that much, I wouldn't say it's like that beneficial. If anything, now from my experience from a free-to-play perspective, it comes down to the fact that I would rather get specific character Eidolons and specific character dupes rather than get multiple characters with different roles and regulations and stuff. Because what I have found is that an E2 of a character is basically the pinnacle in which you want a character to reach. It doesn't matter if you don't have the Lycone. I'll give a very good example. I have obviously E2 Firefly just with the free-to-play Lycone. I don't have a Lycone yet, and these are the Lycones I have on this account, right? These are the Lycones I have on this account, but she is hitting so hard, close to 538 damage. Even sometimes I'm surprised about how and why they've removed such a busted character. And this falls down to the fact that when Acheron came out, I did say that they are going to be removing a character who's going to be better than Acheron, because the one fact stands: you cannot build any DPS character at the moment to have close to 160 speed and deal the amount of damage that Firefly is dealing. But at the same time, these 2 characters are a bit limited from my perspective, because both do need a specific team or specific team members to perform very optimally. So for example, in this case, again, this team would be the most optimal team for Firefly, whereas now let's say you can replace Bronya with another DPS another Nihility character. Obviously we have a Nihility character coming out who might be beneficial to Acheron from an E0 standpoint, but we're talking from the fact that every single DPS character that comes out in the game, there's a potential for them basically, which is unfortunately true, there is a potential for them beating the current meta DPS. Now the current meta teams right now are that you have Acheron on one team and then have Firefly on the other. So something similar to when you're doing MOC. So if I go to MOC here, what you want specifically is, let's go like now MOC here, right? What you want is that in any single MOC or any single account that you have, you want to be able to run basically the same teams throughout every single month and be able to get at least 3 stars. Now in my case on this account, this is my most optimal team. Not because obviously we have this or fire weakness or lightning weakness, because you can put Acheron on any account, or rather any turn specifically. They don't have to have a weakness to lightning, and she will still demolish because of the damage that she does. But the amount the amount of damage that Firefly does the moment that an enemy is broken, it's finished, it's over. Because from then, she's basically, especially if you have her E2, she's basically hitting that 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in 3 turns. Well, 3 instances within 1 turn. So overall, I feel that as much as the discussion is, both of them are good, who's better, from my own personal perspective, I do feel that Firefly is better than Acheron. Now, in terms of an account, I do feel that having both of them is very beneficial. And in fact, if you have both of them, whether at E1 or E0 or E6 or E4, these are the 2 characters until now another DPS character comes in that are able to carry specifically every single turn on the MOC, because that's your major point. Even your simulated universe, sorted, right? One, because Acheron just hits like a truck. No matter where you put her, no matter how slow she is, she will hit like a truck. If you have Firefly, she's hitting like a truck multiple times. So it works out both ways. But in terms of, if I was starting, and this is coming from a veteran, point of view, like when the game started, I started the game, right? Acheron came out and she changed the damage output perspective of the game from an E0 perspective. Now, obviously, with her Eidolons, you do have some extra space. You deal obviously more damage with an increased crit rate, and then obviously you don't need another annihility character, and then damage vulnerability. And then what this allows is, her ultimate damage increases by 20%, and then obviously every attack that you make with Acheron becomes a weakness break attack, which is very good, 100%, no lie. But in terms of Eidolons and who actually has better Eidolons, I do feel that Firefly has better Eidolons, and this is why I'll say this. Because E1 removes skill point consumption completely. Her E2 enables you to do a follow-up attack. Okay, not follow-up attack per se, but go again in another instance if you break a character or if you kill them, which is mad, right? Her E4 is alright, just gives you obviously resistance increase of 50%, but her E6 is what now obviously flips the bill. You have that 20% increase in fire resistance spend, which obviously if you get on top of Ruin Maid's ultimate buff is very good. And then you have this weakness break efficiency by 50%. So in terms of even Eidolons and who offers more in terms of Eidolons, I do feel that Firefly does offer way more in terms of Eidolons than Acheron. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. My perspective, I'd say Firefly right now is the top meta DPS, better than Acheron. But in terms of who should you get, let's say if you were starting the game like very late, I would say try and get Firefly first, because she has a better free to play team, on top of the fact that now you get like an E6 Trailblazer, right? That's my perspective. Otherwise, obviously if you have any comments, any issues, obviously hit the comment below. I'm obviously willing to discuss these points that I've put out. But with that said, I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you all in the next one.